Welcome to Empowered. I'm Elizabeth Namofsky. We all know the term divorce and the devastation it can have on families, both adults and their children. But what exactly is gray divorce? We've heard the term. On today's episode, we'll find out how it affects a woman's retirement and her finances. And we'll also discuss the challenges we see women facing when dealing with gray divorce. And we'll learn about what steps women should take prior to even contemplating divorce. Today, my guest is Julie Seberras. She's head of wealth planning and practice management at Manulife Wealth. Julie, welcome to Empowered.
Thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth.
So let's just jump in. Let's talk about the definition. What is gray divorce?
Yeah, so gray divorce is actually defined as divorce at age 50 plus. So really we're talking about primarily the baby boomer generation, but we're definitely also getting into that sort of first portion of Generation X. And what we get with gray divorce, of course, is couples who've been married sometimes for 20 plus years, could be 30 years. And so the longer you've been married, generally the more sort of assets or complexities get introduced into the situation when you're looking to get divorced.
So can you tell us what the trends are? Like what trends are you seeing with this generation when it comes to divorce?
Yeah, so these numbers are on the rise. So it really, you can sort of slice and dice the numbers different ways. But if we take a look at, from 2010 to 2020, Stats Canada tell us that this number has increased to 80, it has increased 80% over that 10-year time horizon. So, what we're seeing is there's a lot less stigma related to divorce. Maybe, 20 or 30 years ago, there was a lot more stigma associated with it. We're also seeing longer life expectancies, and people want to be happy in their lifetime. And so if they're finding that, they have still, many good years ahead of them and they want to be happy and they're finding in their current situation they're not, they are seeking out that happiness. Now, and of course, we are seeing women feeling a little bit more empowered, and you are seeing, women initiating these divorces more than men. So it is quite interesting. And you are also seeing, of course, like children have moved on and moved out of the house in some of these scenarios. And this is where, couples are looking at each other and saying, is this how we want to be spending the rest of our lives? Are we really happy together? So, once sort of those child rearing years are behind them, they're starting to look at themselves and what's important for them.
So, Julie, what challenges do you see women facing when they're dealing with gray divorce?
Yeah, so this is a generation, Elizabeth, where, often the men were the breadwinner and women often took a back seat when it comes to managing the day-to-day finances, in addition to managing the money overall. So we often see sort of lower levels of financial literacy and lower levels of engagement when it comes to those day-to-day finances, as well as, managing the money. Now, sometimes what goes along with that is also sort of not having their own money and not having, what goes along with that, such as like their own credit. So credit, of course, is built based on usage of credit, have your own credit cards and bills in your name. And if you don't have credit cards or bills in your name, then you're not going to have that, that's sort of core to what you need to move on to your own financial situation after the divorce. So, and of course, when you're getting divorced, that is, there's a lot of emotional stress that you're dealing with, and trying to, up your financial literacy and get a handle on your own financial situation, if you haven't already been engaged, can be a very difficult time and not the time that you want to be starting this learning journey.
So, you've mentioned financial literacy quite a few times already, just in the first
Yeah.
segment. And I think it's something that women should embrace and not be afraid of. And I constantly say, if you don't know, ask. That's one of the things that my mother embedded in my brain.
Yeah.
The other thing you talked about as well, which I think is really important, is have your own credit card. There's so many women out there that have a secondary or supplementary credit card to their husbands. And when it comes time for them to leave, they don't have a credit score. They don't have a credit card or any bills in their names. And they can't rent an apartment or even get their own credit card. So when we come back, I want to talk more in depth about what steps women should be taking prior to contemplating divorce, because this is a huge topic, especially for the women that are 50 plus. And a lot of them have actually gone through divorce during COVID lockdown.